Round 4 for Formula E, and the championship moves to one of the world's greatest cities, Buenos Aires, Argentina. Passion, history, and culture on every corner. As 2015 comes alive, each of the 10 teams looking for the move that sweeps them through another electrifying street circuit, in a test of nerve and precision, in a city where drama is never far away.
A beautiful morning in Buenos Aires greets the Formula E teams and drivers ahead of the qualifying session for the 4th round of this brand new all-electric single-seater championship. There is the beautiful city of Buenos Aires. There on the right-hand side you can see the obelisk that was made to commemorate the country's independence from Spain, a huge structure that's in the heart of the city. And we're here just to the east of that in the Puerto Madero district. Over on the right-hand side you see the Atlantic Ocean. Here where we are now is a superb venue of superb street circuit. My name is Jack Nichols. Alongside me in the commentary box is Dario Franchitti on what is a beautiful day here. 26 degrees the air temperature, 37 degrees the track temperature. It's going to get hotter and hotter, especially when we get to the race element this afternoon. It's going to be fascinating. 2.4 kilometers long, this circuit. It's very, very good, and it's been very, very entertaining, and we can have a look around that track now. Dario talks over Daniel Apt's lap.
Okay, now we're going to go for a lap with Daniel Abt here with the telemetry on the right-hand side. Crossing the start-finish line up to turn 10. Very wide on entry. You're setting up for turn 11 here. Look at that wall coming up, approaching 12. Long straight now, coming down into turn 1. Watch the bumps here as he starts to try and brake and slow the car down from top speed down into a first gear hairpin. Very, very dusty here, you're going to see in a second. Very bumpy as well under the trees, setting up through turn 2, and a long kink here to the left, turn 3. You're not going to use all the road here, you're going to try and minimise the distance for lap time. Coming down, braking for turn 4 here in a second. You're going to go straight though, you're not going to follow the wall to the right. There you go, over the curbs of the apex, use all the exit you can. Downhill into turn 5, you won't see that from the above shot. Try and get the power down, very important for a good exit there. Small lift through turn 6, that'll probably be flat in qualifying. Very, very wide on the straight here between turn 6 and 7. And watch how much this track tightens up as you exit turn 7. Over a 90-degree corner there, tight and bumpy section now. Coming down to turn 8, how brave are you going to be over the curbs at the chicane? And there you go, crossing the finish line, that is your lap. But what you're going to find here is that was the finish line. Just as you come through the last sets of corners, here's the start line, just up ahead.
And that then is the Puerto Madero street circuit, the lap with Daniel Abt. And he is not really in the top 10 of the championship points at the moment. It's Lucas Di Grassi who is at the top of the championship points, 18 points clear of Sebastian Buemi and Sam Bird, who are tied for 2nd position. Nico Prost there in 4th place, Oriol Servia completing the top 10. There is Daniel Abt, 15th place for him. Just a 10th place finish for him so far this season is the best he's been able to manage, which is a real shame. Antonio Felix da Costa there in 14th place, but he's looked very, very quick in free practice earlier on today. So 10 minutes to go until this qualifying session gets underway. The way it works is we're split into 4 different qualifying groups, and we'll take you through the qualifying groups in a little bit. First of all, we'll have a look at the team's championship standings, and it's Edams who are top of the points at the moment. 2 points clear of Audi Sport Abt, incredibly close up at the top, and Virgin aren't far behind either with 54 points. So 10 points separate the top 3 teams in the championship. Venturi, the team down at the bottom at the moment, with 3 points. And so it's 4 groups of qualifying, each with 5 drivers in that will head out onto the circuit. These are the first group will be Sam Bird, Sebastian Buemi, Antonio Felix da Costa, Hopintung and Nelson Piquet Jr. Group 2 will be Alguersuari, Servia, Prost, Di Grassi and Cerruti. And so some strong contenders out in the first 2 groups. And then the third group, Chanduk, Heidfeld, Sarrazin, Abt and Duran, with group number 4, D'Ambrosio, Trulli, Senna, Verne and Andretti. Marco Andretti making his debut in Formula E this weekend. And throughout the season we've seen that everyone assumed that the last group would be the best to go in, but because these cars are on durable tyres, they're not laying that much rubber down. They're not actually doing that many laps at full speed either, so it doesn't really clean up the track a huge amount. So it doesn't really matter, Dario, what group you're in to a certain extent.
It doesn't appear to, Jack, does it? You know, we kept saying, oh, the guy in the first group is going to hinder him, blah, blah, blah. And Jean-Eric Vergne proved last time out that Uruguay makes no difference. So really, it's not a massive handicap. If it's very tight and it looks between P6 and P10, perhaps P11, they were all on pretty much the same time this morning. So it might be a small advantage, but it doesn't appear to be that big.
It's all about getting a clean run, and that man there is probably the man to beat, I think it's fair to say. Quickest in 2 qualifying sessions. He was 3rd quickest in the race in Punta. So he hasn't been slower than the top 3, and he's the only man with that sort of impressive record in qualifying. The only man as consistent as that is Nick Heidfeld, who's had a 6th and 8th and a 9th. Everyone else has had, you know, hugely disparaging qualifying times. Well, I suppose Jean-Eric Vergne as well has been consistently on pole position, but he's only done 1 race. As the fans get ready for the qualifying action here, all sorts of different teams supported. An Arsenal shirt there on the right, but a messy Argentinian shirt on the left is probably a little bit more in keeping with the atmosphere here in Buenos Aires as all the fans are getting ready for this action.
Absolutely incredible on the way from the airport to see the support the national football team has on the way in. Every billboard seemed to have a football player, mostly Messi actually, but they were everywhere. And it's great to see that kind of support for the national team and have that sort of pride in the national team. Going back to Buemi a second, yeah, absolutely, he's on it, and you've almost seen him and Lucas de Grassi start to separate themselves a little bit from the following pack in terms of championship, but also in terms of pace over the weekend. We've got the 2 China guys, they're both in Group 1, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to be very interesting to see.
They had a tough morning. They really had a tough morning. Nelson Piquet got it wrong a little bit in the chicane and moved the wall actually with the nose of the car, and Hoping Tung was P20, so struggled a little bit there. But Nelson's been quite quick, yeah, and I expect quite good things out of him.
Well, he was 2nd quickest in Uruguay and started on the front row of the grid and ended up finishing 2nd in the race as well. This is the start line, which is different to the finish line. They run down towards this hairpin at turn number 1, then out towards the right-hand kink of turn number 2, then this long left-hander of turn 3 that goes from left to right as we look at it here, and then they emerge at turn 4, turn 90 degrees left up towards this hairpin at turn 5, back down towards the 90-degree left-hander at turn 6, which is a lot quicker than it looks on a map from a 90-degree corner, and then they head out onto the back straight that takes them up towards turn 7, which is slightly tighter than 90 degrees, and then into the final chicane and across the timing line here. But so in actual fact, the first corners on the lap will end up being a very incredible sequence of corners here at turns 10, 11 and 12 that are really exciting. These are the corners here that have kept everyone entertained throughout the morning.
Absolutely. I'm really a big fan of 10, 11 and 12 there. One leads straight into the other. So if you make a slight mistake offline in 10, either you got to back it down and abort the lap a bit, or hang on and get ready for the consequences. And that is one thing of street course racing. They do have that thing of getting to a rhythm in one corner leading into another. And you've got to get the first one right to get the second, and so on, get into that rhythm. We see Sam Bird there just having a last minute. He looks like going to have a little chat with the engineers before he heads out.
Antonio Felix da Costa getting ready as well. And he was very impressive, 3rd quickest in the 2nd free practice session. Hamlin and Aguri have been essentially nowhere so far this season. In testing, they could hardly get the cars out of the garage at Donington Park, but they found something at the post-race test in Punta del Este a couple of weeks ago, and now da Costa is 3rd quickest. A really impressive performance in that 2nd free practice. Whether he can translate it into the race is another thing to be seen, but he's a very talented young driver, part of the Red Bull junior program. Had a phenomenal end to, I think it was 2012, where he turned up in World Series by Renault and started suddenly winning everything. Then he went and won Macau and was really the big man to watch out for. Hasn't quite gone his way in the next couple of seasons, no championships to claim, but nevertheless a very quick Portuguese driver as he climbs into his car, and because he will be out in the first group along with Sam Bird, who we saw suited and booted. The two Team China teammates we saw, Hope and Tung and Nelson Piquet Jr., and the other man will be Sebastian Buemi. So Buemi's going to be an interesting man to watch because he has been on it, as you've said so far, this weekend. Quickest in both free practice 1 and free practice 2. There are the drivers that are heading out there, and basically they'll do a lap and then do either 1 or 2 cool down laps and then another quick lap. They get 2 goes at a lap with the maximum amount of boost, and it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Just at the bottom left there of that shot, you can see the government building, that sort of pinky red building is one of the most famous buildings in Argentina, and that's at the center of the Plaza de Mayo, which is the focal point really of Buenos Aires, and that's just a 20-minute walk from here. We're really in the city center. It's fantastic, and we should go for that look, Dario, if it gets a bit warm.
Yeah, it's not happening, is it?
But yes, we can now hear from Nico Prost. He has had a first, and a third in qualifying so far this season. He's with Nicky Shields, our pit lane reporter.
So Nico Prost, are you going to be the man to beat today?
I mean, free practice was not so easy for me, so we'll see. But now it's time to focus and try to put a good lap together. You know, you do the best you can, and then we'll see where we finish. But it's not been the easiest. But sometimes I was able to find some more pace in quali, so let's hope I can do the same today.
What was happening in free practice? What was the problem?
Lots of problems with brakes. I think we found the issue, so hopefully it will be okay. But it's obviously not the best to go in quali when you have had a few problems, but you have to deal with it and as good as you can.
And part of the winning team, are you going to be winning at the end?
Hopefully, if we can get a 1-2 for the team today, would be fantastic.
Thanks very much. Good luck.
Brakes seem to be quite an important factor. This obviously they're vital in general, but this weekend they seem to be quite a determining feature.
Yeah, we've seen a massive amount of lockups, particularly into turn 1, but in general around most of the lap. Some of that is the position of the bumps in the track, which is the same for everybody. But if you think about it, on those first laps out, you're trying to conserve your energy as much as possible for your two qualifying laps. Well, as you're doing that, you're not getting any heat into the brakes, and a carbon brake requires a certain amount of temperature before it works. So some guys are sort of not putting any heat into them. They're showing up at essentially turn 10. They're not braking hard for 10, but by the time they get to turn 1, there's no heat, and so they press the brake pedal. It just keeps sliding. There's just no adhesion there. And then all of a sudden comes in and the brakes bite, and then you see the lockup. So they're trying to really struggle. They're trying to figure it out, but they are struggling with it right now.
We can now hear from Daniel Abt. He is down in the pit lane with Nicky Shields. His best result of the season so far, 3rd place in qualifying.
Daniel Abt, you're qualifying in Group 3. How much of a difference do you think it makes being in the later groups?
Not too much. I mean, the last 2 races we've seen that, or last race we've seen the pole guy was in Group 1. I've been twice in Group 1 and I was able to qualify quite good. So I think it doesn't change too much. It's all about getting the laps together. We only got 2 laps this time, so we have to be focused and we have to put it all together to be on top.
Now, you suffered with quite a few mechanical failures in 2014. Is 2015 going to be your year?
I hope so. I mean, it's a fresh year and so far everything works good. I'm happy with our pace, and I think we just have to be concentrated like we've been the last few times. Shit can always happen, you never know, but we're gonna push and we're gonna make sure we don't do any mistakes, and then I'm sure we're gonna have a great race and a good result.
Okay, well, you were the fastest man on the track last time, but we apologise for that language there. Naughty boy.
Yes, apologies. That stuff can always happen on live TV, especially with Daniel Abt. So yeah, apologies for that language, and hopefully he'll be using some happier language at the end of this qualifying session. And it is a bit different this time around because you get 2 laps at 200 kilowatts, but before we've seen if you mess up the first corner, it's all right, we'll kick off, on we go again. But it doesn't matter this time. If you mess up the first corner on your 200 kilowatt lap, that's your lap done.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to put more pressure on the drivers. We've seen it though at the previous races that you've got to get it done, and so nothing's really changed because the power is limited anyway. So here's the
the first cars leaving pit lane. The pit lane has half as many corners as the racetrack. It's a complicated old place there.
Yeah, there's 6 corners in the pit lane and 12 corners on the racetrack. So out onto the track come the drivers.
This is the advantage Buemi has, being pit out. He's got clear track ahead of him. Sam Bird's going to try and get some heat in the tyres here, but then back off a bit so he's got a clear track and he's not running up the gearbox of Buemi.
So the cars are making their way out onto the circuit, and that'll be the interesting thing we were talking about earlier on, is because you've only got those 2 timed laps. Well, let's just hear a bit of team radio.
Okay, I can hear you loud and clear.
Bit of radio checking. So nothing really going on the team radios at the moment as Nelson Piquet Jr. makes his way down towards the left-hander. But yeah, we were saying, because you've only got those 2 laps, you have a choice of whether you do 1 cool-down lap or 2 cool-down laps in between those 2 laps. If you do 1, though, then you might have the battery still a bit too hot. If you do 2, then the brakes might not be up to temperature. But Sebastian Buemi is out there, and he's the first man to start pushing. And that's that first sequence of corners, 10, 11 and 12, and that is hard.
I would be surprised if that wall does not get somebody. This is a hard bit here, trying to get this car stopped.
Whoa!
And there we go.
Well, he might have did it, yeah.
Well, very, very impressive. Oh, look how slippery it is through that turn 1-2 section.
A 17.2 in the first sector. That's the quickest first sector I think we've had all day so far. So Sebastian Buemi really pushing hard out through turn 3 now.
Used a lot of road at 3.
Down into the left-hander of 4. This is where the second sector split comes.
Bit of understeer there in 4.
A 24.2 in the middle sector, which is good as well. Sam Bird is, he's about 0.7 of a second down on Buemi. This Swiss driver is absolutely on it as he comes out now down towards the left-hander of turn 7.
Let's see how brave he is over the curbs in the chicane here. Very bumpy section coming up. Let's see if he's going to jump over the curbs. Oh.
1 more corner to go. Buemi comes through and across the line. What's it going to be? A 109.691 for Sebastian Buemi. So that's slightly slower actually than he managed in free practice. And Antonio Felix da Costa has just done the fastest middle sector of anyone. So da Costa in the Amlin Aguri car might be about to jump to the top of the timing screens. These guys are on the slowdown. Here comes da Costa now into turn 7. His middle sector has been good. At the moment, he's there or thereabouts with Buemi's time. Into the final chicane. He comes. He's going right up to the wall. Across the line he comes. Is it quicker? No. Second by 0.4 of a second. Behind him, across the line comes Piquet Jr. And he was well off the pace there for Piquet Jr.
I think he aborted, not aborted, but he started backing off the lap pretty early. Piquet did.
Okay.
Here he comes now.
And so he's pushing now. Hoping Tung comes across the line, also went very slow. So maybe they're doing an out lap to get the brakes up to temperature, as it were, and then pushing hard on their 200 kilowatt lap. Let's have a see what Piquet Jr.'s first sector is. Yes, 17.2. Very good first sector from the Brazilian as he comes through turn 3 now.
The laps are not lacking drama, are they? Or commitment from the drivers.
Down into turn 4. Piquet Jr. qualified second in Uruguay last time out, and he is drifting that car through 4.
Left some black lines there.
Second sector split then for Piquet Jr. 24.3 in the middle sector, which is pretty good as well. Whoa, this is incredible.
Yeah, I don't think oversteers or lack of oversteer is an issue there. It's turning in well. But that's cost him a lot of time, though, hasn't it? You know, that middle sector there was not good.
Nearly got caught up by Sam Bird. Into the final chicane comes Piquet. He's crashed there once, attacks the curbings, and ends up third quickest, 0.7 of a second down on Buemi.
Piquet actually clipped the bollard.
Yeah.
So he's right over that curb.
Sam Bird's going for a second cool-down lap. Here comes Hopin Tung across the line. Sebastian Buemi, meanwhile, has done the fastest first sector of anyone, a 17.0, the fastest first sector we've seen all day. Hopin Tung's slowing down at the moment. We go on board with Buemi.
So he's done his 1 cool down, and here he goes. He's got through the difficult part with the cold brakes, turn 1. And just as I say that, he locks up in 4.
He still managed to get it all hooked up and neatly through, and he's 0.4 of a second up on his personal best so far.
But he was slow back to the power there in turn 4. He was a little slow, but he's tidied things up here in turn 6.
Jean-Paul Driot looking nervous. He's done a a good middle sector as well, 23.9. The best time we've seen so far today was Buemi, a 108.933. Here he comes now towards the final corner. The little chicane.
Very nice through there.
Across the line comes Buemi, a 109.134, so still slower than his first free practice time, but a very, very quick time nevertheless to remain top of the timing screens at the moment. Antonio Felix da Costa is coming through now, and he will be hoping to close in after that middle sector. He's a couple of tenths down, but this could still secure him that sort of second place position in this first group.
Yeah, not tight through 7.
Oh, almost touching the wall on the way in there. Across the line comes Felix da Costa, and it is a 109.658, so half a second down on Sebastian Buemi, but quicker than Nelson Piquet Jr.
I wonder how much of the increased temperature, the ambient temperature between the morning session and now is contributing to the drop-off. Here comes Piquet, just he might have got a little draft there, and he's on his second lap now in the second and final lap of qualifying.
Sam Bird is on his second lap as well. Piquet Jr.'s first sector is very slow, an 18.6. That's about a second and a half off the pace, so I wonder if maybe Team China are doing this outlap thing again. Sam Bird's done a very quick first sector though, look at that. He is just less than half a tenth of a second away from Sebastian Buemi's first sector split in the Virgin car. Here he is now, flashing through turn 3. We'll get his second sector split just after the left-hander of turn 4. Very neat and tidy into 4.
Carrying a lot of momentum into 4 there, very impressive. He's nearly 2 tenths down, but again, Sam's style, a lot of momentum through the mid-corner, entry through mid-corner.
Out through 6 and down towards 7. There's Alex Tai, the team principal of the Virgin team.
Got her stopped for 7. Into the bumpy section now. Last chicane, what's he going to do here?
Through comes Sam Bird. Will it be enough to go top of the timing screens? It might be enough to hit the wall. He goes second quickest at 109.388. I think Sam will still be very happy with that.
And Piquet's now on the lap.
Yep, Nelson Piquet Jr. is starting to hurtle his Team China racing car around the circuit. What's his first sector split like? Under the braking zone he comes. 0.2 of a second down in that first sector, but still a long way to go on this lap. And still he's getting that oversteer.
Yeah, the car does not look very happy, does it? I'm sure the driver's not particularly happy at this point.
We're happy watching it though, because it looks super cool. There's Mr. Stephen Liu, the boss of the Team China squad, under braking for turn 4 now. Here comes the second sector split. A lot neater that time, but he's still 0.6 of a second down, so I don't think this is going to improve his position from 4th place. But
a little tidier through 5 as well.
Every 0.1 of a second you can make up, although it might not gain you a position here, on a grid could gain you sort of 5 places.
As close as they were this morning, every fraction of a tenth is going to be important, absolutely. So that car is just way too oversteering.
Here comes Piquet Jr. into the final chicane. Across the line comes the Brazilian, and he remains in 4th place. That's the fastest final sector of anyone, but it's 4th place, a 109.7, and so that, we think, concludes that no, Ho Pin Tung's still out there pushing, but he's not going to improve too much. He's come through the middle sector to do a 24.7. Here is the Chinese racer back in the team after missing the last race in Punta del Este.
Yeah, it was a bit naughty of Sam there, being in the middle of the road like that. He should have got offline. He probably doesn't realise that the China cars are still on the lap, but if you're almost hit the wall on the way in there.
Oh. Here comes Ho Pin Tung out of the final corner, across the line, and it's a 111.0 for Ho Pin Tung, and that leaves him in 5th position. So that, I think, completes all our laps out there. And Sebastian Buemi, the quickest man of anyone, a 1:09.134. Not as quick as he went this morning, but that's going to be a tough time to beat.
That'll be tough. Not a great session there for Team China. 4th and 5th of the group. They've clearly got a bit of work to do in the car before the race.
And there is Ho Pin Tung down into the turn 1 hairpin after his run, which sees him 5th quickest. So here are the standings after qualifying part 1. Sebastian Buemi, the quickest man of all, a 1:09.134. Bird, 2nd quickest, and I think he'll be pleased with that. That's a very good performance from Sam Bird. His best qualifying of the season so far was a 3rd place in Putrajaya a couple of rounds ago, and that race he went on to win. And Nelson Piquet Jr. and Ho Pin Tung finishing 4th and 5th. So they will all make their way back into the pits and Antonio Felix da Costa. Third quickest then for Amlin Aguri, and for Amlin out qualifying the Team China cars will be a real boost for them, because as we've said, they have, I don't know what it's literally like they've just had a eureka moment whilst they were in Uruguay. It's so staggering, the change. But first of all, we can hear from Sebastian Buemi, the Swiss driver who has done a 1 minute 9.134. Has done quicker though today, but he's with Nicky Shields.
Sebastian Buemi, you're our current pole sitter. Do you think you've got what it takes to stay there?
It's really difficult to say. We've seen in the past that with the increase of temperature, it's sometimes not too bad to be in Group 1. Obviously, normally the circuit's going to rubber in a little bit more, so we will see. I mean, I don't think the lap was great. I went a little quicker this morning in FP2. But we have to wait and see how the circuit develops and what the others are doing. At the moment, it's not too bad, but that's only 5 guys.
How much of a limitation do you think battery temperature is going to be today?
Clearly, it's not really an issue for the qualifying, but it might be a big issue for the race. We'll have to work on that. We know that if the temperature of the battery increases too much, then we just basically lose power. So it's going to be down to the strategy of the driver and the driving of the driver to see if we can make a difference.
And which other competitor are you most worried about today?
Well, I think if you concentrate on today, Lucas has done a great job this morning. He was always P2, I reckon, so it's going to be good, I think, and he's in Group 2. Yeah, we will see. I think Lucas, Jean-Eric, obviously, has done a great job, and all the others we cannot forget.
You had a pretty good end to your 2014.
Yes, it was a good end to the season, especially with the victory in Punta del Este and the championship for me in the WEC. So I'm really proud. But now it's a new season, it's a new game, so we have to think about this race.
Yeah, we wish you all the best. Thank you,
Sebastian. And Sebastian Buemi is retaining his role as well as the reserve driver for the Red Bull Formula 1 team. And there he was, getting out of shape into turn 1. I can't remember. I don't think that was his quickest lap. But there are the fans.
He did a good job there.
The action. Yeah.
Getting it in with as much oversteer on the way, getting it into the apex. That was pretty impressive.
So Sebastian Buemi, the quickest man of all. But next up, we will have group number 2. And we've got some pretty strong drivers in there as well. There's Sam Bird, who currently is second.
More oversteer for me. We'll see.
It's interesting. Sam,
yeah.
Say front tyres weren't in on his first lap.
Yeah, and Sebastian Buemi said, well, my problem was oversteer. So it's interesting the amount. Isn't it interesting the amount of car differences you can make from the same car? You know, it's the same car that all these guys have. One guy's going horrific understeer, the other one's going, no, you mean oversteer. It's bizarre, isn't it? This is a look at Sam Bird. I think this is one of his outlaps, just cruising down towards the left-hander at turn 4.
That is even with a one-make situation as we've got here, the amount of adjustment you have makes all the difference in the world, and the driver's driving style too can make a difference, and it just shows you that was a perfect illustration of it. One complaining of understeer, one complaining of oversteer, and that's what all these teams are trying to figure out. They're still trying to figure out what they need to challenge for wins.
So out in Group 2, as we look at a replay of Nelson Piquet Jr. Clouting the bollard there. And so Group 2 will be Jaime Alguersuari in the Virgin car. Then we've got Oriol Servier out for Dragon, Lucas de Grassi for Abt, Michele Cerruti for Trulli, and Nico Prost for Edams. Interesting that Buemi didn't say his teammates when he was asked who your main rival is going to be. So Nico Prost is going to be out in this next group, and he is going to have a reasonable chance of moving up to the front. But as we heard, he wasn't really happy with the car in free practice.
He's 18th in P2. He had a tough time this morning, so you know, anything's possible, and I wouldn't discount him, but he's got a pretty big mountain to climb there to figure out. I mean, as he said though, every time you saw him this morning, the car was locked up, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And they think they've found the problem with the braking system, and they probably, I would imagine, they've changed discs or pads at this point, and then off they go.
That's not going to be a bad vantage point at the race start, is it? As the cars hurtle down towards the hairpin on a beautiful day here in in Buenos Aires. And it's great to see the passion here for motorsport, because it's been 17 years since Formula 1 was here at the circuit just to the north of the city. And out. Now onto the track comes Nico Prost again. Edams being at the end of the pit lane mean that they're first out in the queue, and Prost is starting to weave around and warm up his tyres.
No, this is the question. Does Jaime did exactly what I was thinking he was teeing up to do here. Does he head down and get into the position of on a clear track ahead of him? It's that how much of the energy do you want to use building tyre temp and brake temp?
So Lucas Di Grassi is the first man in this queue in the yellow, green and red car. And that's Sebastian Buemi, the man who is currently on provisional pole position, but we've still got 15 drivers left to run. And there's our second place man, Sam Bird. And so that's Lucas Di Grassi there. Behind him in the silver, purple and red car is Jaime Alguersuari. Behind him in the blue and yellow Edams car is Nico Prost. Behind him is Oriol Servia. And coming out of the pits now is Michaela Ceruti in the Trulli car. She takes to the circuit. And she is going to be all by herself on sort of that stretch of road, but the cool down laps are so slow here that everyone catches up with everyone anyway, isn't it? It's not as though, you know, in other series, if you back off to let the tyres breathe, you just go a bit slower. Whereas here, the cool down laps are super, super slow. We go then with Lucas Di Grassi as he attacks for the first time in qualifying in his apt car, out through turns 10. He's coming down towards the end of the first sector. Down towards his hairpin.
There, do you see that little puff of dust through 12?
2.5 tenths down into turn 1. Back end stepping out a little bit.
A little too wide there, I would say.
A very good first sector from Jaime Alguersuari, a 17.1. He's pretty much matched Sebastian Buemi in that first sector. So Jaime Alguersuari is starting to push. Let's see what Di Grassi's got coming into sector number 2.
Nice and tidy through there. That was a good corner there.
Half a second down and a big front right lockup. Here comes Alguersuari. What's his second sector like? He's 0.6 of a second down as well in the middle sector. Fingers crossed there for Sebastian Buemi.
I wonder if he knows he's doing that.
Yeah. So everyone, I think, is out there pushing by the looks of things. Yes, everyone's taking this first flying lap as a flyer, and that's third place for Di Grassi across the line. But actually a very good final sector, so he's less than 4 tenths away from Buemi. Sam Bird is coming across the line, sorry, Jaime Alguersuari, and he is 6th, well down on his teammates at the moment. But these guys will now back off. The interesting thing was Sam Bird had 2 cool-down laps in that last session, whereas Buemi and Da Costa only had 1 cool-down lap, and then you had Team China doing it totally differently with sort of weird half-out lap sort of things. So
these guys,
very interesting to see.
These guys have the advantage, though, of going, oh yeah, that's what they did, that's what worked. Look at Nico Prost there, 1:14.9. He is, he still doesn't look happy with the brakes.
No, he locked up, didn't he? Just coming down into that first corner when he wasn't even going at full speed. So not having a great time out there. Michaela Ceruti's had a bit of a moment, I think. We saw the yellow flag come out whilst she was pushing. This is down into 4. Oh, that's going in the wall.
Did she miss it? No.
I think she just about clipped it. This is on board with her into the left-hander of 4, and a similar incident to Stefan Sarazan earlier on. Oh, she hasn't hit it too hard.
She might be okay there. Look at the amount of lock you can put in with these Formula E cars. I think she might be okay there.
Yeah, we'll see. She'll come back, probably come. I know she's going to stay out there and do another cool-down lap and then go for it. As she comes across the line, slowest of everyone, unsurprisingly, because of that crash. Nico Prost on his lap was 6 seconds slower than Sebastian Buemi. So he's really, really unhappy. This is them all crawling round now to conserve a bit of battery power.
Buemi does look nervous, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Maybe he knows that he didn't do as good a job as he could have done because he went quicker this morning. Here's Jaime Alguersuari, turned up to 11, 200 kilowatts of power, into 10, 11 and 12.
He had about 4 bites there at 10, didn't he? He was really, the rear was dancing through there. Next tricky point, trying to get it stopped over the bumps into 1. Let's see if he can manage that.
We'll get the first sector split as well, and he's
nice.
Over a 1/10 of a second quicker than Sebastian Buemi in that first sector. Very good first sector from Jaime Alguersuari, and turn 1 looked pretty neat as well.
Yeah, a little wide in 1, but up until that point through that first sector, absolutely nailed it here. Let's see, using again a bit more of the road than we're used to.
Into 4 now. Comes Alguersuari. De Grassi's first sector isn't up to much. It's not bad, but it's not as impressive as Alguersuari. He's still a little bit up, a little bit slower in the middle sector than Buemi, but he's got the advantage of 0.04 of a second as he comes into the final sector. That's Michele Ceruti just cruising around.
This could be an issue for him.
Yeah, I think Ceruti's getting on it now, so it should be all right as Alguersuari there comes into the final chicane. Is this going to be enough to displace Sebastian Buemi at the top of the timing screens? Across the line he comes, it's second. Oh, less than 0.5 of a second down. Lucas de Grassi is about to come out of the final chicane. Or has he crashed because his clock's running and there's a yellow flag out? So have we seen an incident? Yes, de Grassi's off. De Grassi has broken his front right. He's had an accident at turn 6, I think. Yeah. And that is going to be the session over for him. Still managed to have 4th place nevertheless. Here comes Oriol Servia across the line. 8th place for Oriol. The Dragon team not quite as on it this weekend as they have been in the past. Nico Prost, meanwhile, has crossed the line to only go 7th quickest. So it'll be his worst qualifying performance of the season so far. And so de Grassi, he's done his front right, so he must have hit the wall on the outside of 6.
Yeah, on the exit of 6 there. We talked about that. Would they be able to take it flat? Such a quick corner.
He listened to you. He said, oh, Dario says I can take it flat. And there is Jean Todt, the president of the FIA, who has come to watch the racing here in Buenos Aires. And
no, he's done the left.
Yes, the front right, isn't it? So exit of 6.
Yeah, exit of 6 is going to be the culprit for sure. But you just see he's been struggling, and Prost, I mean, he still doesn't look happy, does he, with the brakes? And
no. Here we go. Oh, he's lost it on the way. Oh, almost saved it.
Overcorrected. The cameraman kept filming. Did you see that? That was quite nice work. He just lost a bit, didn't he? And that's maybe when he's just lifted it, it's regen a bit too much for him, and done that. Just grabbed the rear.
The red flags are out. Did that affect Michele Ceruti? I think it did. She wasn't able to set a competitive lap time. Although, if she hadn't started her lap, if she hadn't started, oh no, she had, hadn't she? She'd started her flying lap. So I think that means that Ceruti won't be able to have another go at this.
You see Servia trying to avoid the debris on the track there. This is that's the issue. They've got to clean that carbon fibre up because that'll puncture a tyre just so easily.
The only consideration we have is Nico Prost. His first time was about 5 or 6 seconds off the pace. So maybe he didn't turn it up to 200 on that, and maybe he's got one more lap left. I can't remember the split times.
You might be right. You might be right. There's a young fan got a keepsake for
excellent,
from the weekend.
And the same may be true of Michele Ceruti, potentially, but I'm not quite sure about her because she had the one lap where she crashed and then she got on it again. We saw her just in front of Jaime Alguersuari. So we'll have to wait and see. Nico Prost is the man then that may potentially have the chance of another run.
I think Michele Ceruti, I think she wouldn't have gone off had she been running around at 150, exactly. Would she? So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening here.
Yeah, well, there is Nico Prost, who has stopped at pit in, and potentially he's just waiting for the weighbridge. So maybe he has used both of his laps, and it was just a poor first lap. The session will restart at 12:25, and I think he's saying, "I want to go. I've still got another lap," because the clock has stopped. The clock isn't continuing to tick down. So we'll see what happens here with Nico Prost. On board with Michele Ceruti at the back of this traffic jam. So at the moment, Sebastian Buemi is on provisional pole position. Jaime Alguersuari is 2nd quickest, and Sam Bird is 3rd quickest at the moment. And we've had 10 drivers, half the field, head out for this qualifying session. And let's have a look at the gain at this of Lucas de Grassi.
Just lost him here quite early in the corner. I think just almost overcorrected away a little bit, I would say there. Yeah.
Yeah, he'd saved it almost, hadn't he?
Yeah, and just a little overcorrection, and there's your result.
That would have been cool if he'd have saved that. But
coulda, woulda, shoulda, right?
Yeah, exactly. But as it was, it was very uncool as he crashed into the barriers. So 3 minutes and 14 seconds left on the clock Race will restart at 12:26. There are the Edam's crew, and Prost has been allowed to go, so maybe he does have one full power lap left. There's Carlos Funes there. If only we could speak French, then we could let you know.
We need a translator in here, don't we? Because
yeah, one who can speak about 12 different languages, though. So through goes Nico Prost. Let's see if he queues up at the end of the pit lane.
He looks like he's going because the other guys have been pulled off.
Here comes Prost.
They're pulled off him.
Now what's he going to do? He's heading to the end of the pit lane.
Oh, good. Okay.
So yeah, so Nico Prost has one more full power lap to use. So his battle for pole position is not over just yet, and so he's going to be the only man out on the track.
Ok, je suis le seul à repartir.
As he gets ready.
Pour l'instant, oui. Ils t'ont bien dit que tu pouvais aller retourner en bout de pit lane, on est d'accord?
Oui, oui, ils m'ont dit.
So he gets ready to head out onto the track.
Oh, there's the boss man.
Yep.
Jean Todt going down there.
Right at the end of the pit lane.
Nico's fairly focused, I would say, on what he's got to do here.
I don't think it's time for a little chat, is it?
No, right now.
Remets bien de l'énergie pour remonter.
There's your top three.
Buemi shaking his head, saying he had a bad lap. That's interesting. They were talking there about turn 3, and Jaime Alguersuari was going, "Is turn 3 flat?"
On the first lap,
and the other two are going, "Yep."
Yeah, I think that 200 is quite a different feeling to 150 kilowatts. So
this is Michele Cerruti. The green flag is out then, so Nico Prost will be released from the pit lane now, and all he has to do is cruise around and head back out onto the circuit, and he has got one more full power lap to try and use.
And Nico, more than anybody's got to get the heat in these brakes here. He's got to get the brakes working as well as he possibly can, because he's just been in trouble with them all day.
The man who set the fastest qualifying time in Beijing in the opening round, in Malaysia in the second round, and then was third quickest last time out in Punta del Este in Uruguay. And he has got the track pretty much all to himself. Michele Cerruti might head out onto the circuit again if she has one more lap left. But essentially, it's Nico Prost versus the world in these remaining 2.5 minutes of this second group.
Yeah, Michele Cerruti, there was a bit of discussion on the radio and the international hand gesture for what the hell's going on. And you could see that happening there, but so I'm sure they were telling her one thing and then another, and here goes Nico just getting ready to start the lap.
The good thing for this is, because the engine's just been cooled sitting down, sitting still, that isn't too much of an issue, so he can try and build temperature into the brakes. Here he comes then, Nico Prost, across the line to start his final shot at getting pole position into turns 10, 11 and 12. Oh, not quite there, was he, on 11, but kept it all together nevertheless. Yeah. Down towards the first
little wide in 11, but 12 looked okay. Let's see what he's got here on the split. 2 tenths down. Yes. He got it stopped with no big dramas though. Whether he had to brake early to achieve that is another thing.
He's in 7th place at the moment, Nico Prost, 9/10 of a second slower than his teammate.
That's the first car I've seen that far out in turn 2 all day. And what happened? He got wide in 1, it pushed him wide for 2, and it just continued sort of going downhill from there.
Down towards turn 4 comes Prost. Here comes the second sector split coming up now. Half a second down. But if he can stay 5/6 of a second down, that's still a lot better than the almost 1 second down that he is at the moment. Michele Cerruti is out there on the circuit, so she has got a chance to do another 200 kilowatt full power lap. A little bit of a lock up on the left front for Prost. Gets it all turned in nicely. So where's this going to put him? It could possibly dispose Nelson Piquet Jr. in 6th. Out of the final corner he comes. Across the line, it's 5th for Nico Prost. Quicker than Antonio Felix da Costa, but Sebastian Buemi remains the quickest man of anyone. Michele Cerruti.
Ok, Nico, actuellement tu es P5.
There's a little bit of team radio there for Nico Prost. Here's Michele Cerruti, but lap times aren't particularly good. They're not as good as she has been before, and she's cruising round there.
I think she's probably gone out and they've told her, sorry, you have to do a lap at 150. A bit of miscommunication there, it looks like. I'd be surprised if she finishes the lap. Oh, no, she is.
Here she goes. So maybe now she can turn it up to 200 and this will be her flying lap. So here she comes across the line.
7 seconds to go.
Into turns 10, 11 and 12.
What the engineers would describe as a noisy steering trace here. There's a lot of work going on behind the wheel, and not entirely smooth on the turn in.
Under braking for the first corner, 0.6 of a second down. Gets the line nicely through turn 1. Now out through 2 and 3. So bumpy on the exit there, isn't it?
Especially out as wide as the last 2 cars have been there. Yeah, very bumpy.
Through turn 3, on board we go with Cerruti, down towards turn 4. This is where she had her accident a few moments ago.
A bit more leisurely on the way in there.
1.1 seconds down after the second sector split.
Yeah, that wasn't a bad second sector there. She just, but unfortunately turn 5, loop lock in the front, that's going to cost her some time.
And there's something to be said, isn't there? Because, actually, it's been okay this session. This qualifying session, we haven't had anyone not set a representative lap time. So Cerruti comes into the final chicane and across the line, what's it going to be? A 1 minute 11.7. So that leaves her in 10th place for the time being. And that finally concludes the second qualifying group after that little red flag. So those are still our top 3, Buemi, Bird and Jaime Alguersuari. Not in that order, Buemi, Alguersuari and Bird, but the 2 Virgin cars in 2nd and 3rd place. But that's going to be some frustration for the Prosts, isn't it? To be half a second slower than your teammate who has out-qualified you for the first time this season. So these are our top 10 at the moment of the 10 drivers we've had go out. Buemi, the quickest man. Alguersuari, fraction of a second slower. Sam Bird, about a quarter of a second down on Sebastian Buemi. Then it's De Grassi in 4th, Prost in 5th. Da Costa doing well in 6th place. And Michaela Cerruti completes the top 10. So we can now hear from Jaime Alguersuari, 2nd place at the moment. He's chatting to Nikki Shields. Will he be there come the end of the session?
Jaime Alguersuari currently in P2. It looks like you're really starting to turn things around and find that pace.
Well, I think it's just all about understanding what is going on, to be honest, because we started the season, even the pre-season testing, without any idea of how to operate and how to behave behind the steering wheel, you know, and out of the car. So we did big changes in the team. They are really working, but it's still a lot of potential. As I said in Punta del Este, we are not where we want yet, because despite the position, for sure it's good to be in the top, but we want to be out of the car and knowing that we've done the very, very maximum, all of us, team, mechanics, engineers, ourselves. And I think we're still a long way to do the very, very maximum, because we need to understand everything. When we are slow, why we are slow, when we're quick, why we're quick, and trying to avoid problems. This championship is just a question of pulling the car and not crashing, just to stay on the track. Try to be quick, but conservative at the same time, and for sure understanding. Understanding is the basis of success, for sure.
Well, we hope you keep learning. Thanks very much.
But Dario, in what way is that different to any other championship? You know what I mean? You know, understanding and learning and knowing what's good and knowing what's bad and keeping it. Well, here's the second qualifying group. Chanduk, Heidfeld, Sarazan, Abt and Duran are out in qualifying group number 3 in a few moments' time. But Jaime was seeming to suggest that that's different to any other championship, and this is unique in that sense. But those seem to be the norms for any series.
Yeah, it is the norms. I think what he was maybe suggesting was, with the new technology and everything, with it, all that learning is completely different, and that's happening at a different pace. That is probably what he's talking about. But as far as a championship, how to score points, how to win the championship, yeah, it's no different than anything else, I would say.
So we've got the green flag here for Group 3 of the qualifying session. There's Salvador Duran heading out in his effervescent blue Amlin Aguri. Daniel Abt is out there. I think he's the first man out on circuit. Teammate of Lucas de Grassi, who is currently in 4th place at the moment. Daniel Abt, the young German.
Now Lucas is in P4, but he's got a bunch of work to be done by his mechanics to fix that car. They had a major old shunt in the second group there, so they've got a bit of work to do.
Absolutely, and there is Salvador Duran making his second Formula E appearance after his debut in Punta del Este last weekend. And I've noticed he's brought his own helmet here as well, because last time out in Punta del Este, it was such a sort of last-minute call. They ended up having to borrow a helmet off Amlin Aguri. And so he's brought his own nice white and black design this weekend. But here is Daniel Abt. He's going to be the first man to attack. And there is Jean Todt having a little chat with Alejandro Agag on the right-hand side, the man behind the Formula E Championship. As Abt comes through turn 7, turns it up to 200 and gets on with it into the chicane. And away goes Abt then into turns 10, 11 and 12 on his first flying lap.
So important to get a good exit there out of turn 9 on that start of that lap. Abt uses the curve more than anybody else there in turn 11, and it looks really tidy. Let's see what that first split's going to be.
Here he comes down into the hairpin of turn 1. 4/10 of a second down. Goes very wide into that hairpin, doesn't he?
I think that was understeer. You could hear the front scrabbling for grip. He was trying to get the thing turned in. It just wasn't happening. And much as Sam Bird said, front tyres weren't really in on that first lap. It's that catch-22 again, using more energy from the power source to heat the front tyres up.
Quickest first sector of these guys was actually Salvador Duran. He did a 17.3, 2/10 of a second down on Sebastian Buemi's first sector, but nevertheless a very good sector 1 from the Mexican. Daniel Abt comes past the scene of his teammate's accident. His middle sector is a 24.2, which is pretty decent. Salvador Duran's middle sector is quite slow, so Abt is the quickest man out there on the circuit at the moment. Here he comes into the final chicane.
Very nice through there.
Across the line, where's this going to put him? 8th quickest at the moment, 1.2 seconds down. Stefan Sarazan comes across the line. Where's he going to go? 10th, 1.5 seconds down on Sebastian Buemi. Salvador Duran across the line, and he has lost it all in that middle and third sector, and he's down in 12th.
Is Sarazan going again?
It did look like he was pushing, didn't it?
Was that maybe a lap at 150? And
potentially. We're on board now with his teammate, Nick Heidfeld, coming down into turn 7. What have Heidfeld's sector's been like? Not bad, but this is going to again put him around the 10th place margin. Across the line comes the German. Does he hit the wall there? He wasn't too far away. It's 8th place for Heidfeld.
I think Nick had to go the wall on the way in and the way out.
So he starts to slow down. Karun Chandok has come across the line in 9th place. Now Chandok was pretty quick earlier on. He did a 10.0. and he's come across the line now to do a 10.0 again. So there's still time to be found there for Karun, I think.
He's not going to be happy with that, is he?
No. And there he is, backing right off. Sarazan, has he come through the first sector again? Yes, he has, and he has backed off.
He has backed off.
They're all now in their cool-down phase. So those are still our top 3. And so they've got a lap off of fingers crossing and nervous waiting. But I don't think it's too much of a disservice to say that this Group 3 isn't the most daunting of the groups. We've got very strong drivers out there, but none that have qualified in the top 3 so far this season, with the exception of Daniel Abt, who had 1 third-place start in Beijing.
If you're going to look at one driver, if those drivers are going to, the guys, they're going to look at one driver, they're looking at Jean-Eric Vergne, I would say, as the one possibility of really spoiling their day.
And he'll be out in Group 4. Here comes Daniel Abt across the line to start his qualifying run. 3rd in Beijing. He was 4th on the grid in Putrajaya, which ended up being 3rd on the grid, but the car broke the throttle problem just right at the start of the race. So it was a real shame for Abt, because he's had the pace but hasn't quite had the reliability. A 10.5 down in sector 1 isn't bad. Sarazan through the first sector. He's doing similar sort of times, just over a 10th of a second down, struggling to get the power down.
Yeah, too wide there, too wide on that exit. You're trying to keep the momentum up through the middle, and he paid the price on the exit there.
Through 3 comes Sarazan. Here's Daniel Abt already at 4.
You see how the bumps upset the front of the car there, really stopped the car turning.
Oh, that's deep, that's deep.
That's it, that's the lap ruined, unfortunately. Because now the dirt's going to be on the tyre through turn 6 as well.
Here he comes, the left-hander. And so Stefan Sarazan, how was his middle sector? 24.3, so not bad from Sarazan. He might be able to climb up a couple of spots here. His teammate Nick Heidfeldt's in 8th place. Abt is going to finish the lap anyway. Across the line he comes and doesn't improve, remains in 10th position. Sarazan across the line, he jumps up into 10th place. So he deposes of Daniel Abt and moves his Venturi car into the top 10. Salvador Duran's about to appear at the final chicane. Here he is, through the final corner. Oh, a little kiss on the wall and across the line. He remains in 14th place. We go on board with Nick Heidfeldt, the last man to come through and set his lap time through the chicane, takes away the bollard and crosses the line to go 3rd quickest. Great lap from Nick Heidfeldt, fastest of anyone in the final sector, probably because he went straight across the chicane, but a 109.367, and that's bye-bye Sam Bird.
That was a great last sector, wasn't it? And again, Nick almost collected the wall on the way into the chicane there, and then just decided to drive over the second curve and got away with it. So Sam is look how close. 200s is the difference between Nick Heidfeldt and Sam Bird. That's you heard the exasperation there from Sam.
That was incredibly close, but what a final run from Nick Heidfeldt. Quick Nick up into 3rd place with only 5 cars left to go out onto the circuit. Really strong performance from the Venturi driver.
He was P12 this morning, 1.6 seconds off. That's quite impressive. The gain that those guys have made over the hour between the 2 sessions.
And his best qualifying performance of the season so far was 6th place in Beijing in the race that he almost won going into the final corner. But we all know what happened there. In case you don't, he crashed into Nico Prost and had a massive accident. But
I'm not sure saying that he crashed into Nico Prost is technically correct.
They came together. And at the final corner, but 3rd place for Nick Heidfeldt. Then provisionally with one more group still to go, and in that group will be Trulli, Verne, Andretti, D'Ambrosio and Senna. Great to see so many fans out here, isn't it? They're really taking it, as there is Stefan Sarazan and Nick Heidfeldt there, 3rd place then. Really strong performance. I'd love to see that final corner of Nick Heidfeldt's again, because he really attacked it, and I think he hit the wall as well on the way out.
He might have.
Say 3.
He was on the way in. He was. Oh, here we got Team Hyde.
No, it's just Heidfeldt.
That's very good. Surprising after this morning. Very happy as a loser.
Pretty much echoing your sentiment there. Very surprising considering this morning.
Good, really good job there. As I say, he brushed. I think he brushed the wall on the way in, jumped the curb, and possibly hit the wall on the way out of that last chicane. So we've said all day it's about how brave you want to be through there. You're balancing the risk. Absolutely, every time you go through there, it's so easy to just catch it wrong. And when you catch it wrong, you're a passenger. And so you've got to weigh that up every time you go in there.
As we saw with Nelson Piquet Jr. in free practice 1, he had an accident in his China racing car. So 15 drivers down, 5 left to go. And there are the standings at the moment, with just 5 drivers left to take to the track. Sebastian Buemi, provisional pole position. Jaime Alguersuari, 2nd provisionally, with Heidfeldt, Bird, de Grassi and Prost completing the top 6 as it stands. And we've got Da Costa for the Amna Naguri squad, Nelson Piquet Jr. there. Karun Chandhok only down in 9th place. He did manage to improve on his 2nd lap, did Karun, but only to 9th position. So it won't be a repeat of his 4th place qualifying that we saw in the opening round in Beijing. And then Tung, Duran and Cerruti, the final 3 positions at the moment. And you can see Daniel Abt, helmet in his hand, walking down the pit lane, a long old walk to the Abt garage. The next session will start in about 3 minutes' time. And there's some of the Brazilian fans watching on.
We need some of those hats, don't we?
Yeah, that's true, actually. And there is the Puerto Madero district. All these old sort of red brick buildings you see there were the old shipping buildings where they would store everything that was brought in by boat to Buenos Aires, which is, of course, on the eastern coast of South America. But those are now defunct because they built a new port and it fell into disrepair, this Puerto Madero district, but in the last 10 to 20 years it's really been rejuvenated and is the wonderful area that we see today. Here's a look then at the classifications after Group 3. Sebastian Buemi, the quickest man of anyone by 0.027 of a second. Really, really tight stuff. Nick Heidfeld is in third place. Fourth for Sam Bird. Degrassi is fifth. We've still got 5 more drivers, though, still left to go out and attack. So will the likes of Piquet Jr., Chandok and Sarazan still be in the top 10? Disappointing qualifying, I suppose, for Oriol Servia, the man who was second quickest in Malaysia just 2 rounds ago, is down in 12th place. Duran and Cerruti are in 14th and 15th places. So 2 very nervous men will be the men who are currently on the front row.
So boys, we've still got 1 group to go in qualifying. Do you think you can hold your positions?
It's difficult to say. Clearly, we've seen that the circuit is quite stable. Maybe it improves a little bit, I don't know. It will depend on what the other guys are doing, but it's going to be tight for sure.
And who's the one to watch in Group 4? Jean-Eric Vergne?
Probably. You never know in Formula E, really. We both agreed that the perfect lap was 8.7, 8.8. So we did a good lap, but we think that it's possible 3-4 tenths, maximum, not anymore. Then you have the wall.
Well, we hopefully will see you here in 10 minutes. Thanks.
So they reckon there's a couple of tenths of a second still out there. Marco Andretti there is making his debut in Formula E this weekend. And it's great to have him here, filling in taking over the car run for Matthew Brabham in previous races. And he's an experienced racer, 27 years old, the American. An awful lot of IndyCar races, an awful lot of top 10 finishes, and a couple of victories as well. He knows what he's doing in a single-seater, but this is a very different kettle of fish.
It's massively different, and Marco's had he didn't do any of the tests, and if you think about everybody else, they've now had a good few races to get acclimatized to everything and the feeling of the cars and all that, and Marco's just come in this weekend and he's trying to catch up and then start to compete with them. But he made big improvements between practice 1 and practice 2 there, but it's a long time since he drove something with this little downforce and grip, and something especially that weighs as much.
So the cars are heading out onto the circuit for the final qualifying group, then Group 4. And so first out we've got Jerome D'Ambrosio. He's followed by Jean-Eric Vergne. Then it's Marco Andretti. Then it's Bruno Senna. And then Jarno Trulli will come out a bit later because they pulled that trick with Michaela Cerruti. They left her to come out sort of half a lap later than everyone else to give her a bit more clear air. So it looks like they're going to try and pull that same manoeuvre with Jarno Trulli. So the problem for Jean-Eric Vergne, I mean, I'm going to say this now and look like a fool, but Andretti didn't, to me, seem particularly comfortable after free practice this morning with just the pure pace.
I would agree with that. He just didn't look nearly as happy. He was nearly a second off the quickest time, and the car didn't look like it was working well. So there are a lot of smart guys in that garage, and I'm sure they've been crunching the numbers and coming up with setups, and we'll see if they've managed to make a difference.
This is Jarno Trulli, the Italian who raced here last time we had FIA International Single-Seaters in the 1998 Argentinian Grand Prix for Prost. And Alain Prost, I suppose, is running a team here as well. Across the line then comes Jerome D'Ambrosio to start his flying lap. Into 10, 11 and 12 comes the Belgian. Really attacking those curves, wasn't he? And here come the pair of Andrettis.
Marco's been smart here. He's followed Jean-Eric Vergne, and he's just, I would imagine he's seen if he can learn anything.
Bruno took a lot of curve, didn't he, on that first turn 10.
Bruno got your attention there, didn't he? a bit wider for Jerome, just in 2 again, pushed him wide, coming into the exit of 2 as well.
It's quite a slow first sector, actually, from Jerome D'Ambrosio, 17.9, whereas the quickest first sector we've seen is a 17.1, and that's a big front right lockup as well.
Just grabbing on the brakes yet again.
2.2 seconds down, so maybe he is not using the full 200. Jean-Eric Vergne comes across the line 2.3 seconds down after sector 2. So, well, if they are using the full 200, I think there's cause for concern a little bit out there for these guys. A 17.4 in the first sector for Jarno Trulli is a bit more representative as D'Ambrosio comes into the final chicane now. And across the line, It's going to be a 1 minute 12.239 for D'Ambrosio, 16th quickest. Then across the line comes Jan-Erik Verne, 17th quickest. Across the line comes Marco Andretti, 18th quickest, and Bruno Senna, does he complete it? No, he goes 18th quickest, so just in front of Andretti. Oh, and Trulli's off! Trulli's hit the wall. I think that's at turn 4.
It looks like 4, doesn't it?
And that will bring the red flag out. His teammate Michele Ceruti went off there.
Oh, he's done some serious damage there.
Yeah, Trulli's done a more comprehensive job on that one.
I think he's only he's done 2 corners at least there.
Yeah, I think he's hit the sort of Tech Pro stuff with the rear and then hit the actual concrete with the front as well.
Looks like it, yeah. That was a really slow start to that session there, wasn't it? I mean, all the drivers in that session are bringing up the rear. Whether, here we'll see Jarno, see what happens. I mean, that's almost a carbon copy of what happened with Michele Ceruti, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, this is the onboard view down into turn number 4.
Looking good so far, and then just about now, boom, rear's locked. Oh,
that's
when they slap like that, it hurts.
That's a lot of work to do in the next 3 hours, isn't it?
As long as they haven't tubbed it, which could be a serious problem there.
So, we have had our first 5 cars out there on the circuit. D'Ambrosio, Verne, Senna, Andretti and Trulli, and that's the order they're in 16th to 20th places. But
I never touched the side. Touch side was never on the bike.
But he was in the tech zone.
And that was a discussion about crashes between the drivers, but I can't imagine that's the true pace of all of those guys. To be, you got Salvador Duran, who's in his 2nd ever Formula E race, and they're 2 seconds off his pace. I think they've
clearly it's not there, but what is the reason? Did they make a mistake and had to back off, or did they run that first lap at 150? It would be nice to have that information to see, but whatever the reason, I mean, Marco Andretti, his first sector I think was 2 seconds off or something. So that to me points to a lock up in turn 1.
So into the pits come the drivers, whilst Jarno Trulli's car is being cleared. Jarno himself is out of the car, and that's great to see, but that's his 2nd qualifying crash of the season. He had an accident in Beijing as well that ended his run, and again the cars have been stopped there, and then they'll be released down to the end of the pit lane. I wonder. I guess they will, because a lap time here is only 1 minute 9. I was just wondering if they'd have time now for a quick lap, a slow lap, and then a quick lap again. D'Ambrosio is pulling into his pit garage. Bruno Senna
the same thing.
Isn't, or is he?
Yeah, he is. Like he is. So they clearly think there's going to be a little bit of a delay, so there'll be some cooling, I'm sure, going on there. Cooling the batteries down there, just getting everything optimum for the second go at it.
We will meet you at mid-exit with the coolers. We will come up to you at mid-exit with the coolers.
So the Andretti guys are going to pit lane exit, and they're going to get cooled from there. It sounds like they're going to bring the cooling stuff.
Okay.
And there's Bruno straight back out.
Yeah, and D'Ambrosio's being pulled out as well, so they're making their way to the end of the pit lane as we look at Jarno Trulli once again going off at turn 4. It was such an instant loss, wasn't it?
There's a bump there just before it went, and I wonder if that caused the rears to lock. Maybe the car bottomed out, but wow, there's a big hit.
Yeah, and that is, as we say, a lot of work to be done. I think you do see the bump just the instant before.
Watch. There you go. Bump. I wonder if they've run a softer rear, or maybe lowered the car a bit and actually bottomed the car out. But Jarno being the team boss as well, he's going to have to pay to fix it. Yeah. So it's double frustration for him.
Yeah, exactly. At least he's got no one else to blame, really.
But as a driver, you always try and find somebody else to blame, don't you?
So they're lowering the Trulli car onto the back of the flatbed, and then we'll get it moved, and so we'll be probably a couple of minutes late ending this qualifying session, but not too bad considering we've had 2 red flags.
And I made that comment as a driver.
Yeah.
Or an ex-driver.
So we'll be restarting in about 1.5 minutes time. There is Bruno Senna at the end of the pit lane. So the interesting thing is going to be how many full power laps these guys have got left. Whether it's 1 or 2, they'll all have at least 1. But we think the Andretti guys may potentially have 2. Jarno is Just was he just taking a seat out the back there? He's not in the mood to go back over the bridge back to the pit lane just yet, is he?
No, he's probably he's going to hang out for a little bit. The mechanics will be starting to work on that car though as soon as possible. Not a lot of time until the race start.
No, just, well, 3 hours from now, the grid will be formed, everyone will be on the grid. We'll be having national anthems and all the like in just 3 hours, so it's so difficult to deal with it all in such a compressed time period.
You know, after practice, I did not expect to see Nick Heidfeld standing there.
No.
He really pulled that lap out, didn't he?
Yeah, really impressive stuff from Nick Heidfeld. 27 degrees the air temperature, so it's for one, that's not actually too hot. It's hot enough, but we were expecting sort of low 30s air temperature today. Not a cloud in the sky.
Hotter than London or Edinburgh right now, I think. Weather's a little challenging back there, unfortunately.
That's very true.
You know, going back and thinking that two of this group are in the top 10.
Absolutely. We can now hear from well, no, we won't be for a moment. Hopefully we'll speak to Andretti a little bit later on. But they've just told Jean-Eric Vergne on the radio that they've still got 2 more full power laps to do. So that's come from the team radio. Jean-Eric Vergne has been told you've still got 200 kilowatt laps left to do. So that may be the same for all of these guys potentially. We'll have to wait and see. But Jean-Eric Vergne then still out there and still with a chance of taking pole position away from Sebastian Buemi.
How many warm-up laps are they going to do then, Andretti cars? That's the question. And do they have enough time to do 2 warm-ups, 2 cool-downs? They don't.
Yeah, it's going to be tight, isn't it?
They're going to have to give somewhere on their strategy.
Through comes Senna. Unless they use that 150 warm-up lap as a sort of extra testing, as opposed to, you know, bedding in brakes or anything like that, actually just using it almost as a test lap, because you've got the time, you've got the battery life, so why not just have one more go to see how the changes you made worked?
I'm sure that's what they were doing there, but timing is of the essence. You know, how much time do you have left? In fact, torque map 2, so it looks like they're probably going to go for it here on this first lap, maybe 2 cooldowns. You only have to cross the finish line. You don't have to complete the lap before the checker comes out. You've only got to cross the finish line.
So here comes Jean-Eric Vergne out of the final corner. Across the line he comes, down towards turns 10, 11 and 12. So close to the wall on the way in. Here he comes, attacking 11.
Oh, Marco got properly sideways there in turn 10.
Out now, down towards the first sector split. We're going to be running a little bit over in this qualifying session because of the couple of red flags. We should be finishing pretty much on time. Jean-Eric Vergne, though, is a couple of tenths down in that first sector.
Marco was a further couple of tenths down on him.
And Bruno Senna was about 3.5 seconds down, so I wonder if Senna is taking another cool-down lap to then go again. All the cars that are out there are under investigation, apparently, according to the timing screen, so something's gone on out there that the stewards are a little bit concerned about. But nevertheless, Jean-Eric Vergne has come through the middle sector, a 24.1 in the middle sector, which is a pretty good middle sector, actually. This isn't going to be a bad lap at all for Jean-Eric Vergne, and considering he's got another one still to push for, he's still in with a shot right up to the wall.
That was close.
Into the final chicane comes Vergne, across the line, and where's this going to put him? 6th place for Jean-Eric Vergne. Only 0.4 of a second slower than Buemi, so if that was a chilled, you know, first banker lap, he might be about to push super hard. Marco Andretti comes across the line 14th. And here's Bruno Senna, who I think now is going to start his flying lap.
I will tell you, I think Vergne's next lap is going to be exciting.
Absolutely. Here's Senna. Whoa! Looked like he had a bit of opposite lock coming through turn 10 there.
Maybe overcooked 10, just a fraction, which will hurt him for 11 and certainly through 12.
Down he comes towards the first sector split. And he's about 0.2 of a second down.
Nicely into the apex, though, but too wide on exit again.
Oh! Right over the curbs on the inside there. We haven't seen many drivers do that.
No, we have not. They all went wrong there, the middle to exit of one, and it just continued through the next part. Now he's got the 2 Andretti cars going slow ahead of him. Well, I tell you what,
he's in the wall.
He was going to say whaled it in there, and yeah, he's keeping going though.
Yeah, he might have got away with that one actually. But the other thing to note is that Jerome D'Ambrosio hasn't left the pits. He's still in the pits. Oh, and Marco Andretti's got in the way there of Bruno Senna.
He really did.
Oh, and got to a lot of traffic.
That was not very good from the Andretti cars there.
Call up in there, please. 121 settings, 121.
In fairness to these guys, though, with the bumps and the way the vibrations, it's so difficult to see in the mirrors how Bruno's coming in.
So in comes Senna, but here comes Jean-Eric Vergne. It looks like he is going to be the last man standing to try and take pole position away from Sebastian Buemi into turns 10, 11 and 12. Flashing through. Marco Andretti is following him as close as he possibly can. There's only 0.4 of a second between Buemi and Jean-Eric Vergne at the moment. Oh, he's locked up both of his fronts. He's not going to get outstopped, is he?
No, missed it.
He was 1.5 tenths down in the first sector anyway, and that's going to cost him a little bit more time coming through sector 2.
Marco had the rear of the car really dancing there on the exit of 2.
Down towards turn 4 comes Jean-Eric Vergne, another double front lockup. He's straight on, and you said it would be exciting. But ultimately, it's a bit of a disappointment from Jean-Eric Vergne, but he will start most likely in 6th place. There's still Marco Andretti out there.
Sorry, guys.
I don't know if Marco's actually at 150 or 200 there, because he hasn't equaled his best splits through the first 2. So let's just see here if...
yeah, maybe he's done another slow one. That's very interesting.
He's got 1:40. He's got all the time in the world here to make it happen.
We heard Jean-Eric Vergne apologising to the team over the radio, saying, sorry guys, no, Marco Andretti's coming in. So that is the conclusion of the qualifying session, and you can see how frustrated Jean-Eric Vergne is with that. The man who took pole position last time out in Uruguay will only start 6th on the grid. So there are our top 3. Sebastian Buemi takes his first pole position of the season so far. Jaime Alguersuari will be alongside him on the front row of the grid. Nick Heidfeld will start 3rd.
I think we learned more than anything here how difficult it is on this track, how easy it is to make a mistake, more than any of the tracks we've been on so far.
And come the race, that's going to be a very, very interesting element to it as Vergne pulls in onto the weighbridge.
Turn 1 is going to be exciting, isn't it? Because there's that temptation. It's so wide, and the track is so wide, the temptation to steam it down the inside there. And there's a bump right where you don't want it, with the cold brakes as well. Yeah, it's got all the ingredients, hasn't it?
There is potential to make a mistake, but interestingly, I think this is the least attritional qualifying session we've had so far. Only Jarno Trulli crashed out of the session. Quite often we've seen sort of 5 or 6 cars crashing out and having to retire.
But the mistakes that were made and laps aborted was, I think, higher than we've maybe seen.
Yeah, that's very true. So we're in for a very interesting race. 3 hours' time, we will be racing here in Buenos Aires as Bruno Senna makes his way out to the back of the garage. But we can now hear from our top 3. Sebastian Buemi is the man, though, who will be starting from pole position for the E-Prix later on. And it'll be Jaime Alguersuari starting in 2nd place, Nick Heidfeld in 3rd place, and the 3 of them are chatting now to Nicky Shields.
You won the last race and now starting from P1, a pretty good start to the year.
Yeah, really happy. Obviously, I was not sure I could keep the pole position because of those guys. You know, Jaime was very close, being less than 30 thousandths behind. So it's good. I mean, it's just a start. Now we've got to finish the race and score good points, but it's always good to start from pole position.
Jaime, congratulations on P2. What are you going to be focusing on now before the race?
I hope I have a race with no issues and we can manage to get the pit stop right with the time limit, with a minimum time limit, and I would be very happy. Just to, you know, at the moment it's been good because we haven't run any issue yet, so I would be more than happy to finish the day with no issues.
Good luck, thank you. Nick Heidfeld, at last, your luck could be changing. You scored your first point in the last race, and from P3 you must be ecstatic.
Yeah, I'm very happy with that because we struggled all day in free practice, didn't really get any lap time together, and was surprised when the team told me P3. And now I hope I will have a clean race for a change without any crashes and penalties.
We wish you all the best. Thank you.
So let's have a look at the qualifying results after the qualifying session here in the 4th round of the Formula E Championship. Sebastian Buemi takes pole position the third time an Edam's car has topped the timings in the 4 races so far. Al-Ghashwari will start in 2nd place. Nick Heidfeld, his best qualifying performance of the season so far, with a 3rd place start. Sam Bird will start 4th. Lucas de Grassi will start in 5th position. Jean-Eric Verne could only manage 6th there. Nico Prost, for the first time, starting outside of the top 3. He's down in 7th place. Jarno Trulli is not classified after crashing out of qualifying in 19th place. Bruno Senna also running into trouble, and he's got another fight to come from the back of the grid. So what an entertaining qualifying session that was. It seems a long time ago that Sebastian Buemi took to the track. The beautiful city of Buenos Aires was all set for the first competitive action in FIA Formula E around the Puerto Madero street circuit. The fans were all in place, the cars were all in place. All that was left was for the drivers to push. Sebastian Buemi was out in the first group, the Swiss driver getting ready to take to the track. So were the 2 Team China guys, Nelson Piquet Jr. and Ho Pin Tung, as was Antonio Felix da Costa in the Amlin Aguri car. Buemi was straight out there and straight into the first corner, throwing it around. Nelson Piquet Jr. attacked the bollards, and Sam Bird was pushing hard as well, but it was Sebastian Buemi who was the quickest man of anyone, and he took provisional pole position, a position that he would never relinquish. Michaela Cerruti was out in the 2nd session. She had a spin. Her teammate Jarno Trulli would then repeat the action, but with more severe consequences later on. Lucas de Grassi was pushing hard. He'll start 5th on the grid. He wasn't quite able to usurp the drivers in front of him. Jaime Alguersuari managed to qualify in 2nd place. De Grassi was trying to match them, but ended up in the wall on the exit of the corner at turn 6. Spectacular moment for de Grassi. Looked like he'd almost saved it, but that'll give the app team a lot of work to do. Sam Bird was looking strong to be in 3rd place. Jean Todt has come to Buenos Aires this weekend, having a little chat with Alejandro Agag. Daniel Abt was out in the 3rd group of qualifying. He was pushing hard, but just went in too deep at the hairpin at turn 5 and couldn't get it all back together again. And then out came Nick Heidfeld, seemingly out of nowhere, to jump up into 3rd position. Wonderful performance from the German, considering Venturi had been pretty much nowhere in the first 2 free practice sessions. So he's going to be one to watch out for when the race comes. And the fans were all set, waiting for the 4th group of qualifying. Would anyone be able to usurp Sebastian Buemi? Jerome D'Ambrosio was out there, but unfortunately his Dragon car ran into problems. He only managed 18th quickest. Bruno Senna could only manage 19th quickest. And then Jarno Trulli ended his qualifying session. Not a great result for the Italian, crashing for the 2nd time this season in qualifying. That means he will be starting 20th and dead last at the back of the grid, and the frustration was clear to see. So that meant that really Jean-Eric Verne was the only man out there who could take pole away, because Bruno Senna was struggling in his Mahindra. But Verne was pushing hard coming into the final few moments. Bruno Senna hit the wall, and that really ended his chances. Jean-Eric Verne was pushing, but he locked up both of his front wheels at turn 4 and had to run wide. That means that there are our top 3, Sebastian Buemi, Jaime Alguersuari and Nick Heidfeld in qualifying. So less than 3 hours to go, and a reminder that Fan Boost is available, and so you can give your favorite driver a boost by going online and voting for your favorite driver, and they will get an extra 5-second boost in both cars. At the moment, Verne has the lead in the Fan Boost vote on 22%. Bruno Senna is 2nd, he's got 8.5% of the votes, and then we've got Bird and Heidfeld just behind. So that could all change, and that is up to you guys to get voting for the driver you want to have the Fan Boost. And so at the moment, Nick Heidfeld, he'd love it, wouldn't he? He's tied for 3rd place at the moment, and he's starting 3rd on the grid. So get involved in that if you wish to. Sebastian Buemi, though, will be the man to start on pole, the man who won last time out in Uruguay. He is really in a good vein of form. Here's a look at the championship standings, and those 3 points for Sebastian Buemi means he is now up into 2nd place in the championship, now just 15 points behind Lucas de Grassi. That's the same as a 3rd place finish. So Lucas de Grassi, top of the timing screens, he'll be starting in 5th place. There we can see Antonio Felix da Costa there, 14th in the championship. Make sure you join us for the 4th round of the Formula E Championship. It gets underway at 4 o'clock local time. Can't wait.